Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. I've been really debating whether or not I wanted to make this video, and if I did, if I wanted to do a long form video over on my personal YouTube channel or just do kind of a quick one here, and if so, how it kind of pertains to everything. Yeah, strictly speaking, this isn't an exactly a legal video, but monetary policy, fiscal policy has an impact on the overall system, including the law at the end of the day. Much more in a longer term, kind of more indirect way, but it does. And I've noticed, and I'm not going to get into politics at all, but I've noticed one issue that's kind of been around, sort of floating around the ether the last few weeks, maybe months. It comes from this whole notion of essentially, basically free money, essentially. You know, this notion of, oh, you know, if, and this is in the United States as well, it's not just Thailand, you know, if you elect so-and-so, you're going to get, you know, this stimulus check in the U.S. context. If you elect so-and-so, you're going to get this check. You know, and then the same kind of ideas I've seen them floating about in Thailand. Then on top of it, I read an article in the Bangkok Post, I'm not even going to cite it, it was from an author I really, really respect who has a good grasp on economics, but I couldn't have disagreed more with the fundamental conclusions, because at the end of the day, it came, you know, I had to remember that this person was a Keynesian, and Keynesians are kind of a different breed of economists than somebody like me who's, I don't know if you call it Austrian, whatever, I just call it kind of common sense economics. But I don't even want to get into those, oh, this type of thinking versus that type of thinking. I just think of it as common sense. Look, at the end of the day, printing money, and whatever you want to call that, call it quantitative easing, call it whatever, stimulus. Printing money, so-called free money, it's not free. At the end of the day, you know, they sometimes call inflation the hidden tax. Because when you print money, and the definition of inflation, especially the old school definition of inflation, regardless of the whole velocity of money and all of that stuff, the old school definition of inflation is basically just an expansion of the money supply. When you do that without a concomitant expansion of goods and services, it leads to inflation. And inflation, again, it's a hidden tax. It costs more to buy certain things. Again, instead of having a tax, it's this sort of hidden cost. Which brings us to this kind of notion of free money generally. For anybody that's really thinking about these kind of quote-unquote solutions in a Thailand context, I would urge Thais to just look at the West and look where, you know, where has all that quote-unquote free money gotten folks? It's not good. It's kind of bleak, in fact. I don't really like to talk about those topics in detail because I don't really want to, in a way, well, you have to face problems or else they get worse, but I don't want to seem like just an absolute pessimist when I talk about this stuff. But long story short, yeah, look at the West. It's a really good example of what happens when you have policies that basically just result in quote-unquote free money. It's not particularly beneficial for anyone, and it can be a real problem for economies and even for whole societies. Because you go back to Roman times, for example, when they started debasing the currency through different methodology. Basically, they were diluting the metal, for example, silver, gold, copper. They were diluting the metal component of the given coinage, or they were clipping the coin, so-called. And over time, that took its toll. And one could argue it was a major contributing factor to the fall of the Western Empire. So, again, not to be too gloomy here, but, you know, one thing I like about Thailand is the commonsensical approach to things like economics. And I just got to say, you know, just on a conceptual level, the notion of free money, it ain't free.